You were talking about when you try to describe this. Well, it's a guy that tried to grow potatoes, which is kind of funny, but it's true.
But that was the pitch to the director, Nikolai. He said, you want to be part of it? I've got this great story. You want to be part of it? I got the perfect part for you. This is man, he's trying to grow potatoes. And then there was a long beat, and I said, does anything else happen? and yeah, sure, a lot of things is happening in this film.
Hvad er det for en hest, du rider på? Er den ny?
Du har slået 2 uskyldige civile ihjel.
Jeg håber, du har stærke beviser, når du kommer her med sådan en vanvittig påstand. Men jeg er jo bare landsdommer, så hvad ved jeg om loven?
De var under kongens beskyttelse, og han vil blive informeret om det her.
Ved du, hvad jeg tror? Jeg tror, du har besøgt nogle landvejsrøvere. De har havet egen. Der er flere af mine egne gårde, der er blevet plaget af dem. Og det, der er med de her typer, det er, når de først har smagt blod, så kommer de igen, og de kommer igen.
Tjekke!
Og de kommer igen.
Hold dig væk fra heden. Er det forstået?
Kaos, Ludvig. Du kan lægge planer lige så tosset, som du vil. Livet er kaos. Hvorfor er det så svært for dig at acceptere?
Welcome to the actor's side. Today, one critic called him one of the greatest faces in cinema. And that's a nice compliment. He's also one of the greatest actors in cinema today. And his latest film is The Promised Land, which is the Danish entry for the Academy Awards. Very good luck charm for Denmark here, because after the wedding, A Royal Affair, The Hunt, and another round which won the Oscar all have something in common. Mads Mikkelsen, hi.
They do, yeah, hi, thank you, yeah. Yeah, I found a lucky strike there.
You are a good luck charm for Denmark.
Looks like it, or maybe it's just good films.
And they're good films
Yeah.
too, there's no question. And the latest, Promised Land, I just loved it. It is on one level just an old-fashioned, epic kind of movie that we don't see anymore. People don't make this kind of movie anymore, do
well,
they?
I guess you do over here. I mean, we never do it back home.
Right.
We come from a tradition of like kitchen sink drama, so it's very unique for Denmark to make a film like this. But still, from that school, I mean, for Nikolai, who's the director of the film, he's in love with the epic, but he's more in love with the characters. So he still has that kitchen sink drama feel of the authenticity of the story, and then the epic part is the hat we're wearing.
Exactly, and it works on both levels. That's the trick it pulls off there, and a lot of that is because of you. You have a classic movie star kind of performance here, I would say, and you do in a lot of movies. Not as many words are needed. It's all in the face. Great acting is through the eyes, if you ask me.
That's very sweet of you.
Yeah.
I mean, some films allows you to go that path. Other films you have to produce much more. It's a different kind of character, a different kind of film. But this is also a time. This is the 1750s. So that's a stoic person at a time where people didn't talk about their feelings too much. So, so we could take some words away from him.
Well, he's a man who wants a certain place in the society of that time, dreams of that, and takes it upon himself to take over really this land that is, you can't grow anything on it there. It's called the Heath.
Yeah.
And he wants to show he can do this for the king and build it up again. Really has confidence in himself, but also such a fascinating character because of the way he is, that he carries himself almost like he's part of another world.
Yeah, he's a hardworking man. He comes from nothing, and he's made his way up the ranks in the military, and he became a captain, which is almost impossible in those days.
Right.
So he wants to heavily to be part of something that he hates, which is nobility. He wants to meet the king, but at the same time, he loathes this whole world of people just getting things for free and not working for it.
Right.
So it's this funny and interesting character that wants to be part of something you hate. Is very dramatic and is quite human and recognizable.
Oh yeah, completely. And his just tenacity here and going through hell.
He is. I mean, there are obstacles coming his way from outside forces. We obviously have a quote-unquote bad guy in here, a baron who's owning the land, he thinks. So he's an obstacle, but the worst obstacle in his life is himself. He's the kind of man who creates the drama because he's got plenty of opportunities to go left. and not right, but he chooses right all the time, and that changes the course of the story.
Now, you worked with this director before in Royal Affair.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of input, I've heard, into the character as the script was being developed. Is that important to you?
Yeah, important. I like to be invited inside. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy who can sit down and come up with a story and start writing, but if there is a story I find intriguing and interesting, I do enjoy they invite me in there to emphasize it, to say, okay, if you want to go that way, maybe we should tweak it here, then it becomes a little stronger, a little more tough, a little more brutal here. So I really enjoy that my friends will invite me into that part of the table.
Is dialogue, you know, look, I was an actor in high school
Yep.
and college, and the first thing I did was count my lines.
Yeah, here you go.
And I've heard other actors do that, but I think the best actors are the ones that know the silences and what's important there.
Both is important. I mean, if it's a dialogue-packed film, obviously you want to be part of that then. But this is not a film without dialogue. But it's
Right.
obviously we're not having the same kind of dialogues you would have today in 2023. So the whole idea about asking how you're feeling, how was your day, didn't happen because they were just pleased and happy if they survived that day.
Right.
So those kind of dialogues were not happening.
You know, you sort of stand there and you're so imposing in this movie. And like you mentioned, there's a bad guy. Bad guy is
He's
an
bad.
understatement.
Yeah.
Schinkel?
Deschinkel.
Yeah, well, he keeps adding
He added the D.
which is very funny, actually.
Yeah, and funny because he was not a nobleman himself. He bought his way to be a nobleman.
Right.
So we're kind of in the same boat there. There's two very stubborn men, very different characters, but somehow come from the same place.
But you're perfectly matched. You play off him perfectly. I mean, you watch him do despicable things.
He does.
And you can see it, your tension building and building without saying anything.
I'd like to get my hands on him eventually.
That's fun to do, that kind of movie?
It is.
Yeah.
This is a time where people didn't have a say in their own life unless you were part of that 1%, right?
Right.
So that none of the women have a say in their own life. Even the noble woman doesn't have a say in her own life. Obviously, the peasant doesn't. There's a little girl who's like a gypsy girl. Obviously, she has no say in her own life.
Right.
So, and that goes for this character as well. But he wants to get out of that prison. He wants to go higher in the ranks. So they took it for granted. It's not that there was it's not the same moral as today. It wasn't like unjust. It was just the way it was.
Right.
They didn't even see a future. They just saw tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Times changed. 20 years later, the Enlightenment came, but these people are not aware that it's just around the corner.
You know, this movie premiered at Venice, played Telluride,
Right.
then Toronto. It's been around the globe in these major film festivals
Yeah.
and things. Do you get different reactions?
We get slightly different reactions. I mean, obviously some of the humor in there, it translates easier in Danish because it's our kind of humor and sometimes it's just lost in translation. But I think overall, the essence of the film is the same takeaway from everywhere. I also think, as you said, it's an epic film. It's not every day we see epic films anymore, but we remember them from our good old days.
Yeah.
So there's a certain love story we have with those kind of films, and that translates pretty much the same everywhere in the world.
You were talking about when you try to describe this. Well, it's a guy that tried to grow potatoes, which is
that was
kind of funny, but it's true.
But that was the pitch. The director Nikolai, he said, "You want to be part of? I've got this great story. You want to be part of it? I got the perfect part for you. This is man. He's trying to grow potatoes." And then there was a long beat, and I said, "Does anything else happen?" and yeah, sure, a lot of things is happening in this film. It's part of the story. It's a part of his survival story. But and it actually is surprisingly interesting to follow that part of the story.
Fascinating.
But it is more relatable in the sense it is a you and me drama. It's a very human drama about a lot of things. It's about opening your eyes up to something else than your ambition, to embracing what is right in front of you. This guy has a hard time to see what's in front of him. Well, when he eventually does see it, he realizes that he's probably wasted his entire life.
Yeah, I don't want to give away because I want people to go see the movie.
Yes.
And we'll be showing a clip, but it really surprised me.
There's a lot of surprises in this film. It does change gears a lot, and I forced my son in to see it, and he thought exactly that there was a man looking at potatoes. And he was blown away. It was a completely different film than he imagined.
Now, I didn't know the book that it's based on, The Captain and Barbara,
Yeah.
and Barbara being a key person who's
Very
working
key
for
person,
him.
yeah.
But we don't know actually how key she's going to be.
No,
I mean,
no, she starts out being invisible in the film, and
Yeah.
then she grows more and more, and eventually, well, can I say that? I can say that. She becomes very important.
very
in the story.
important.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was a true story. I didn't know your character, Ludwig, is real. And
Yeah, and De Schenkel as well.
And De Schenkel,
These
too.
two guys were having a battle on the heath, so it's a true story. It wasn't a big story in Denmark. I mean, I'm a history buff, but that part I didn't know. But it's in the local society over there, they're very proud of that story, and luckily now more people in the world knows about this guy who was a pioneer for Danish agriculture and civilization.
and has, I think, tremendous relevance still today. We see variations on this about territorial disputes,
Sure.
land grabs.
Oh, yeah.
All of that is
never changing.
It
No.
never does change,
No,
right?
no. It's maybe because human nature doesn't change, I would say. I mean, so this thing is that there are different morals, there are different ways of doing things in different time periods, but the nature of the human being doesn't change that much in 1,000 or 2,000 years.
Right. You're a big movie star around the world, not just in Denmark. Obviously, you keep going back to Denmark to
Yeah.
make movies there. But if I list all your movies, we'd be here all day.
Yeah, let's not do that.
But I do want to ask you about, so most recently, which I saw at Cannes at its premiere, Indiana Jones
Yes,
and the
sir.
Dial of Destiny. Before that, Fantastic Beast, Rogue One, Star Wars, Doctor Strange, Hannibal, obviously, the television series, Quantum of Solace, and Casino Royale, the James Bond. You like to dip into the franchises.
I'm the franchise guy. Yeah, it's a crazy story. I mean, it's obviously it's a long list of being part of franchises for any American actor, but for a Danish actor, it's completely surreal.
Yeah,
surreal
right.
to be part of that. And I remember, like 2 weeks before I got the phone call from Indiana Jones, a friend of mine was listing it on a piece of paper, all the franchises. He was like, and he said, and then he wrote down, but you haven't done this one, and that was Indiana Jones. Then I got the phone call.
Wow.
So the first thing I did was give him a text. So we filled out the list. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know why. I don't know how that happened. I'm back home. I'm over here once in a while, and it's been a fantastic ride. But I'm super surprised that it's happened.
You are?
Yeah.
Really, to me, like I said, you're a classic kind of movie star. You remind me of Gary Cooper or those people.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with it, because he's another one that knew
Yeah.
Exactly what to do on camera, knew that camera so well. So I don't think it's a surprise that you've traveled, as they say in the business.
No, I mean, maybe we don't dream about that when we start out doing stuff in Denmark. We just want to be part of something. And then when that happens, all of a sudden, it was new to us because Denmark came on the map in terms of filmmaking in the mid-90s. And that's why I started as well. And all of a sudden, people had watched our films from other countries. And then we started getting phone calls, which was never the plan, never the dream. But I'm not going to complain.
Well, that's amazing. Well, you started maybe about 17 years ago, made your first big film there. Pusher,
I did
was that?
94, 5, 95.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And worked with Nicholas Winding Refn.
Yeah,
who-
30 years ago almost.
Huh?
It's almost 30 years ago now.
Yeah, wow.
28.
Maybe that is, yeah.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
math is terrible.
Yeah, it's good.
But, but you worked with him, which I find
Yeah.
him to be an amazing character.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we started out together, and I was in the middle of drama school, and I got that phone call. Actually, I went to an audition, and he was insisting on not using actors. He wanted it to be a real street film with a street vibe, but there was 2 or 3 parts in there that was quite big, and the producers persuaded him to find some actors who could pass for people on the street, like gang people. The drug environment, and then that he couldn't find anyone, and then somebody told him, like, have a look at this guy from this drama school. Nobody understands what he says. And that was true. I had that street language. It was a tough time for me to get rid of it. But he loved it, and he didn't understand what I said anyway. So, but he loved it, and then he said I was part of his film, and then so yeah, I was a lucky punch again. And when I graduated, the film premiered. So for me, it was like a kind of an easy start. I had a film coming out when I came out of school.
That's an unusual success story.
Yeah, and it was also a very unusual film because we've never seen anything like that about the street environment, almost documentary shot with a handheld camera, and it was kind of groundbreaking for the time.
Right.
So that was pretty cool to be part of, and it was the stuff we were dreaming of as a generation to make films like that.
Yeah.
And then it just came my way.
And Dogma. And
Dogma, I was not a big part of it. I did a Dogma film later, but I was not part of that. I was actually shooting with Nicholas, doing pretty much a Dogma film without the rules, though, because we didn't have any money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Another Round was such an international success.
It was, yeah.
An amazing. I've heard they've wanted to do English remakes.
Of course they do. Yeah.
What do you think of that? I don't think they should remake movies that are.
I don't mind it. I think in the right hands, go for it. I mean, there's this fine balance between how funny it should be and how serious and dramatic it is. And obviously, everybody can get nervous that you make a full-on comedy or full-on like dark story out of it.
Yeah.
Get the balance right and go for it. I think it's a beautiful film, and if that means that more people will see it because it's an American remake of it, I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's interesting. You had to be drunk. That's
I
always
had to be drunk, yeah.
So let me
Yeah.
ask you: do you go to YouTube ever to look
Yeah.
at? Did you go to YouTube?
We did for certain elements of that. I mean, the whole idea about like, let's figure out how it is to be drunk. We didn't need to figure that out. We all grew up in kind of like working class areas of Denmark. It's not that we've never seen a beer before.
Yeah.
But we did do a little boot camp, which was like trying a certain scene out. And then after one beer, see how it works. After two beer, after three beer, just and get the exact right measurement of like 0.02, and then just tape it and see what happens. And we didn't feel anything. We thought it was the exact same scene. Once we watched it the next day, you could see the difference. You know,
Really?
Absolutely. Your hands start doing crazy things, and nobody started listening to each other. All of a sudden, somebody had a monologue that wasn't there. It was like
Right.
things we didn't notice, right? And then for the crazy drunk part,
Right.
like. That's where we went to YouTube and watched Russian people.
I find that fascinating.
That's like two Russians with a log trying to put it on a bicycle. Nothing beats it. It's insane. Because it's so much over the top. It's so much over Charlie Chaplin level, right?
Yeah.
But you have to go there in the film. So we gotta be inspired of how can we move like that without, overacting, right?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like an experiment anyway, the whole idea of it. And then you're
Yeah.
looking at...
Well, one of the secrets is that they don't go full out. They are so focused on one thing. And that's the thing they're focused on is not succeeding for them, right? And that's the funny part. Just stay focused and be impossible at the task.
And something worked there because that became the Danish Oscar-winning
It did,
film.
yeah.
Another wonderful director.
It was a beautiful surprise to us. I mean, we did this film for a number of reasons, and we didn't know exactly what the target audience would be. It turned out to be our kids' age, our parents' age, our own age. It struck a nerve for different reasons with different generations, but it was a complete surprise to us.
I bet a lot of people would be surprised, maybe not if they saw that movie, that you started as a dancer.
Yeah.
Got to do it
true.
a little bit there.
Yeah. Yeah, I had this kind of Billy Elliot story in my life. As I said, I was a working class kid, and I was a gymnast as such. And then they needed some people doing acrobatic stuff in the background of a musical, and they picked me and a few others. And within that musical, we also had a few dance steps. And the choreographer eventually asked me if I wanted to learn the craft because I had a certain talent. And I had absolutely nothing else to do, so I said yes. And then I realized I can't tell my friends. I just can't tell my friends. I'm a dancer. That doesn't work. And then later on, when they finally found out, and they realized that there's a lot of women here and not a lot of boys. All my friends wanted to be dancers, so it worked out well.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't make it though, but they wanted to. Yeah, I loved it. I was a dancer for almost 10 years, but it was nothing I ever planned. I'd never seen theater before. I'd never been in a theater, and all of a sudden I was doing stuff.
Wow.
So my dream was never to be a dancer or an actor. I just wanted to do sports when I was a kid, and I'm still waiting for that phone call from Barcelona or someone.
Gymnast, you were a gymnast. You could have gone to the Olympics.
I was okay, but I wasn't up there.
Oh, okay. So is there a big Hollywood musical in your future here too?
I don't think so. You also have to be able to sing, and I kind of skipped those classes.
Oh, they
Let's
can
put it
dub
that
you.
way.
Don't worry about
Oh,
that.
here we go. I'm ready.
I would love to. I would love to see it. What are you doing next? What are you up to these days?
Not much. I'm doing this. We're touring around with this one, and people are embracing it. We're trying to make some attention around the film.
Yeah.
We think it deserves an audience, and so that's what I'm focused on right now.
I really think this deserves an audience. I know they were talking about inspirations for it.
Yeah.
They actually mentioned, I don't know if it's the director or the cinematographer, mentioned Lawrence of Arabia.
Yes. Yeah. The director is a big fan of that film.
Yeah.
So that it's not trying to copy it, but he loves the idea about an epic film on that scale where the center of the film are still the characters. So as we just mentioned in the beginning, so the epic scale is the hat you're wearing.
Yeah.
So he's definitely heavily inspired by that.
Yeah, it definitely, it has that sweep, I guess is a word for it. It
Yeah.
has real sweep. But like you said, it's got real focus is on character, this wonderful young
Oh, she's been
actress.
fantastic. Yeah, she's absolutely out of this world. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But she's not an actress, so that's the whole trick.
Oh, she's not?
No. We were looking for someone who was unspoiled in the sense that you can't get both, right? I mean, if you get a school little actress, you might get a small adult, and we didn't want that. So we looked and looked, and we finally found her in Sweden. And yeah, she would forget her lines sometimes, but it didn't matter. She would come up with something else. And what she was doing was just for us to hang in there, follow her lead, because she knew what she was doing. She was absolutely fantastic, and a lot of ways to get her to do what we wanted, but sometimes we didn't need to because she just went somewhere else, and that worked for the film as well. So she's a little star.
Oh my God, she will break your heart.
Absolutely.
You know, I told you my wife saw this and she says, he's got to find her. He's got to go back. You know, it's one of those movies where you talk back.
Will he go back?
And what will happen? Well, The Promised Land is worth checking out for sure. And good luck with this one. And on down the road, all the way to the Oscars too, where it is entered as a Danish entry. Mads Mikkelsen, thanks for joining us on the
Thank you
Actors
so much.
Side.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.